Hello there guys, it's CoolFox over here, and today I'm bringing you an unboxing and review of the Xiaomi Redmi Go smartphone. So this is basically a €50 phone, and down in the description you will find a link to Gearbest, which basically sell a lot of gadgets such as robots, phones and so on. Some benefits of using Gearbest over others like AliExpress is that if you choose priority line, which is basically around €5 for shipping, you will have a very low chance of paying tax, which compared to AliExpress usually costs around 20 to €50 on shipping with DHL. So seeing that Gearbest offers such a low price for shipping without any tax is a really good thing to see. And you can obviously track all of these using a website called onetracking.net, which is basically a one-for-all tracking website. So starting off with the unboxing, on the front all you will find is Redmi Go and basically nothing else except for the Mi logo on the top. And on the sides you will find nothing written except on the right side, where you will see that this is the global version of the phone. And on the back you will find some basic specifications. So it has a 5-inch 720p display, and considering the €50 price point, it is very good to see. It also has a Snapdragon chip inside, which is also very good to see at this price point. We will go into that later on and I will tell you exactly which chip this has. It also has a 3000 mAh battery, which is more than enough for a 720p display, and it also has an 8 megapixel rear camera as well as a 5 megapixel front camera. So this is good to see a low megapixel count, since many of these manufacturers with low-end smartphones usually interpolate their cameras to around 16 megapixel, which is obviously software based, so nothing will be gained from that. So seeing that Xiaomi sticks to the actual megapixel count of the camera itself is a good thing to see. So opening up the box, on the front you will find the phone itself, which obviously has a plastic protector on the front, and underneath you will find a little sachet containing the SIM ejector tool as well as the manual. You will also find a micro USB cable inside, and the cable itself is actually pretty long. And then you will find the EU charger, since this is the global version. And on the back you will find a USB port to connect the charging cable to. So taking a look at the phone itself, you can see here that on the front, as I said before, there is a sticker which once removed will show you the actual display, and here you can see that there is a pretty sizable bezel, but this is obviously to be expected considering the price again. And even on the bottom here you do have a pretty sizable bezel, but you do get included touch capacitive buttons, so there is nothing software based, so this is very good to see. And going on the back you will see that I did get the blue color, and basically going through the finer details, you can see that on the right side there is the volume rocker, which does feel very solid, and they do not actually rattle around, which is very good to see, again considering the price point. And I did have phones which were more expensive and they had very loose buttons here on the side, and even the power button here is very sturdy and solid. And on the top here you will find a microphone as well as a headphone jack on the left side, which is very good to see considering that many manufacturers now are actually removing them on higher end phones. On the left side you will find the dual SIM slot, and on the bottom you will find a speaker as well as a micro USB for charging and another microphone on the left side. So going through the UI you can easily tell that this is very close to stock Android, which is very great to see. And looking at the apps pre-installed, you have many of the Go versions of the applications themselves, which are basically the lighter variants of the full applications. So for example you have Gmail Go, which is the lighter version of Gmail, Facebook Lite, the lighter version of Facebook, and this was pre-installed by the way. You have YouTube Go as well. I did install the usual YouTube app just to see how that runs, and I will talk about that later on. Then you have obviously the calculator app, camera app, you also get the calendar app, you get a cleaner, which is not usually seen on stock Android, but nonetheless you have it, since this does not have a very large amount of storage. Then you also have Google Go, you obviously have a file manager, an FM radio as well, and Maps Go, which as well is the lighter version of Maps, messages for obviously SMS messaging, Mi Drop, which is basically File Dash if you know what that is on the OnePlus, and this basically transfers files faster than Bluetooth if you have another Xiaomi device. And as you can see, you can also change the icon so people can recognize your phone from other phones if there are any other phones which are Xiaomi and have Mi Dash on. And obviously here you can see that you can send or receive files. So for example, if I click on send, you can also send full applications through this. And as you can see, you do need to set permissions, and once that is done, it basically works like File Dash or AirDrop for Mac. And you can also scan a QR code so that If it does not find it this way, you can also find it through the QR code. Then apart from that, you get Mi Video, which is basically a video player, Mint browser, which is a Xiaomi browser, music, phone, photos, Play Store, settings, a sound recorder, and YouTube Go, which is the lighter version of YouTube, as I said before. And something else that I like a lot is that the search bar is on the bottom, so that when you are holding the phone, you don't have to reach up, but all you need to do is press down here and just write whatever you want on the keyboard. So I think that is a very neat feature to have, and it's a lot better than trying to reach up to the top of the nav bar itself. So going through the settings, you can see that this is very close to stock Android, and basically you have the About Phone on the top instead of on the bottom. But nonetheless, if you go on About Phone, you can see that it is running Android version 8.1, which is very good to see, since these cheaper smartphones usually have a very outdated version of Android. It does have a pretty recent Android security patch as well, which is great to see. So I did charge this fully 7 days ago, and I did put it on airplane mode and on standby, and as you can see, only 15% of the battery went down, which is amazing to see on a cheap smartphone like this. So you can basically rest assured that battery life is not a problem. This also has only 8GB of storage, as I said before, and only 1GB of RAM, which is also pretty common on these cheap smartphones. But on a UI like this, which is very close to stock Android, you will basically not even notice that this is a 1GB RAM phone, and you won't even notice that it has a 400 series chipset. Then you also have some Mi services, which is very common as well on a lot of phones. OnePlus has the same thing, and I keep mentioning OnePlus since I obviously do own a OnePlus, so I can talk from experience. And this is very basic, so if you want, you can turn these on to help them improve their services, but if you don't want that, you can also turn them off, which is a great option to have. Then you have the usual settings as well, so this is basically very stock Android. So I did run PC Mark, which basically tests the battery life of the phone, and as you can see, I did get 8 hours of screen on time, and this is basically all down to the screen resolution, chipset, and the battery capacity. So as you know, this does have the Snapdragon 425, which is a very common chipset on these cheaper smartphones, and this is a very power efficient chipset as well. It does have only 1GB of RAM, which again does not take up a lot of battery. The screen is 720p, which again does not take a lot of battery compared to 1080p screens, and then it has a 3000 mAh battery, which is very close to the OnePlus 6 as well, but this obviously has the Snapdragon 845, which is a lot more power hungry than the Redmi Go, so you can expect very good battery life from the Redmi Go itself. So a while back I did get a security update for the phone itself, which is amazing to see considering that this is a cheap smartphone and that many brands don't actually update their cheaper smartphones, let alone their flagship phones. So I did manage to run Geekbench, and it basically gave me a measly score of 624 on the single core and 1557 on the multi-core, but this is pretty much to be expected, and as you can see, it does compare very poorly against others, but you need to keep in mind that this has a Snapdragon 425. So now going into sensor box, and here looking at the proximity sensor, you can see that it is working exactly as it should. The accelerometer works, the light sensor does also work pretty well, as you can see. Going into GPS test, you can see that it does find the location pretty well. It will take a while to find accurately where you are, but it will eventually find and fix to your current location, and if you're outside, it will obviously be a lot better. Now as for gaming, I did try to install PUBG just to see if it does run, but as you can see, once it was installed and once I tried to play it, it said that this device was not supported, and obviously even if it did play it, it would have been very laggy considering the chipset and again the RAM. So obviously you should not expect this to be a gaming performance killer, but for other games such as Altos Odyssey, you can expect this to play it pretty well, and obviously it won't stutter that much either. It might take a while to load, but that is obviously considering the storage and the speed of the storage installed. So obviously once everything is up and running, you can see that it will work without any problems. Now it might stutter a bit, and this is just because I have just installed an update, so obviously this is a worst case scenario basically, and you should not expect this to lag that much. But as you can see, now it did smooth out and it's basically running without any problems. Now it does sometimes, as you can see, produce a few artifacts, which I am not sure why it does that, but nonetheless it might get a bit annoying for some. so you should keep that in mind if you want to play games such as Auto's Odyssey. And while we're at it, I can also do a quick sound test. So as you can tell, the speaker itself is nothing impressive, but for the price of this phone, it is more than acceptable. And now going into the YouTube app and basically checking out a few videos. First of all, you can tell that it is actually connecting to my Wi-Fi network, which is actually quite far away, and I am very impressed with the phone, considering that many phones, even more pricier phones, do not even connect at this range. So it is very good to see that this one does connect. So in fact, as you can see on the normal YouTube app, it will lag a bit, and this is why it comes pre-installed with YouTube Go. And here, loading up a 1080p 60 video, it will obviously go down to 720p 60, since the screen itself is 720p, but nonetheless it will play at full 60 frames per second without any hiccups and any jolts in the video itself. So you can expect very smooth video on the phone, and even when watching through the full YouTube app, it will not hiccup at all. And now lastly, going into the camera application, you can see that this is fully fledged like any other camera app, and you also have a manual mode, which if you want to you can use, but obviously you cannot really expect very high quality images because the sensor itself is only 8 megapixels, and also considering the price it won't be that good. But nonetheless, I was actually pretty impressed by the quality of it, and I will put up some samples right now. And as you can see, in daylight it does produce pretty good quality images, but in nighttime it will suffer a lot. But overall I can say that I am very impressed with the camera quality considering the price of the phone. Now as for SIM card connectivity, although it does not have a SIM card in right now, I did test it out and it did connect with 4G speeds, and the call quality was also pretty good. So you can expect this to perform just like any other smartphone with even a higher price tag. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. This was CoolFox and I'm out. Peace.